All right. I'd like to start off by saying Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai. This is GMS Info Doc Channel 12. I had to, this was created a while back, but I had to start live streaming on this channel because they gave me a strike. I don't know if it's a strike or whatever, but I can't go live on the GMS Info Doc Channel 11 for a while. I don't know if it's 3 months or 6 months. You know how these devils do. But I kind of wanted to get into the topic. As you see, it's called The Things Which the Gentiles Sacrifice, and various topics. I was meditating on this and a few scriptures came to mind. And today being December 25th, 2017, approximately 11:25 a.m. East Coast time, Eastern time, I guess it's called, so-called Christmas, and wanted to go through some precepts to show you that, first and foremost, Christmas is not biblical. And second of all, today is a day where people cook, and they make different dishes and all that. And sometimes, you having family members that are unbelievers, they may offer you a plate of food, and coming into the truth when you first come in, it's you staunch and over righteous, so he's like, man, the hell with that. But I mean, if the food is lawful and you say prayers over it, you can eat it, because the Lord said the world is His and everything in it, as long as it's not no pork or no shrimp or nothing that's unlawful, you could eat it as long as you say a prayer over it, because you're not eating it as a thing of saying, well, this is offered to Saturnalia or Christmas or Santa Claus or whatever. You're just eating it as a meal, as long as it's a lawful meal. Yeah, as long as it's not anything unlawful, you could eat it. It's not a problem. But the problem is if you have a brother, what you're gonna get into some of these scriptures. If you have like a newcomer, a brother that's just newly in the faith, and he doesn't really understand the difference between somebody cooking a Christmas dinner or Thanksgiving dinner or whatever, and then offering it to you, and you saying prayers over it to Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, and he doesn't really understand, you can't, you, for the sake of that brother, you won't eat it, even though you can, by saying things, by saying a prayer over it, you can eat it, but he has a weak conscience, as the Lord's will we're going to get into, so just for his sake, you won't eat it, because he has a weak conscience. But if you have your senses exercised, you could eat, because it's not you're not going off, because they is sacrificing it to an idol. But as long as it's lawful foods, you could pray it over it and pray in the name of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh and eat it. It's just food, when you go to the store in the supermarket, when you're buying those different meats, whether it's chicken or lamb or whatever you buy, you don't know how they prepared that. You don't know if that was an actual animal that was sacrificed to a god. These nations are heathens. But you just take it, you prepare it, you say a prayer over it, and you bless it. But anyway, this is the book of Jeremiah 10:1. It says, hear ye the word which the Lord speaketh unto you, O whole house of Israel. Thus saith the Lord power, Yahweh, learn not the way of the heathen. Why? Because these heathens have, and shalom to the Akim on the comment board, these heathens, their customs are vain, So it says don't learn their ways. Why? Because the things that these nations are doing, especially the ones that were in our land at one time, they got kicked out of that land for worshiping idols and the different things that they were doing. That's why the Lord said, learn not the way of the heathen, because Israel is very impressionable. You know, they'll watch other nations doing certain things in certain ways that they worship their idols, and they'll be emboldened to do that, you know, because it looks nice. You know, when you look at the Christmas tree, so-called Christmas tree, matter of fact, let me pull that up. Christmas tree. Let me try it again. Christmas tree. Enter. Go to images. All right. When you look at it, you know, especially the one at Rockefeller Center, Christmas tree, Rockefeller Center, right? Especially the one here. See, they look at it and they're in awe because of the lights, you know, and the glimmer and how pretty it looks, you know. And then, you know, you have the different, you know, you've set up the different you know, the different ornaments and stuff on the tree, you know, the gifts under the tree, you know, and the whole thing of it. Israel is amazed by that, you know, but this is a custom of the heathens. This is a custom of the other nations, you know. It says, going back, it says, thus saith the Lord, learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. So these heathens, they're dismayed at these signs that are in the heavens, like the chariots and different things that are happening, you know, the different constellations in the heavens. You know, we're not supposed to be dismayed at them. Why? Because we understand that these are things that are supposed to happen to usher in Yahweh's return, you know. So in doing that and waiting for his return, we're not supposed to learn the way of these nations. But Jake is very impressionable. They get into that. It says, for the customs of the people are vain. For one cutteth the tree out of the forest, the work of the hands of the workman with the axe. And you see here, they actually have the tree right here. Somebody actually cut this tree out of a forest. And then what do? They carry it because the tree is not alive. And the story went, you know, that if you don't take the tree and put it up and put gifts under it, that Nimrod spirit is going to come and get you, or something along those lines. Well, this tree right here is not alive. They had to cut this tree. This tree was alive. I mean, it still has life in it, you know, but they cut the tree from the roots, and they had to carry it from all the way from where it was in that forest all the way here to Rockefeller Center or wherever in the person's house it is. And they had to set it up right, make sure that it's stable, make sure that it's on a tripod or whatever it's on to hold it so it won't fall over. Then they got to deck it with different lights and all of that. So this is not something to be feared. It says, so they cut it down with the axe, they deck it with silver and with gold. So they put like little ornaments and stuff over it, right? It says they fasten it with nails and with hammers that it move not. And you see that, you know? And I'm pretty sure if you look at the base of the tree in Rockefeller Center, they have something holding it together so that it won't topple over or fall over and kill somebody or a whole bunch of nobodies. They fasten it with nails and with hammers that it move not. They are upright as a palm tree, and you see it. They are upright as a palm tree, you know, especially when they put it, they stand it up, right? It says, but speak not, they must needs be born, because they had to be carried. This tree was actually carried from wherever it was at, wherever forest it was at. It was put on a truck, and it was brought there, and then cranes had to hoist it up to stand it up to get it where it needs to be. And then they had to deck it with all this bullshit, all these lights to make it look spectacular, I guess you could say. You know, they had to put all this shit on it. It says, because they cannot go, be not afraid of them. And because the legend was, if you didn't put gifts under the tree, that the spirit of Nimrod would come and get you. So I said, don't worry about that. Don't be afraid of that shit. So for they cannot do evil, neither also is it in them to do good. They can't do good. They can't do evil. Now, if they don't fasten it right and that motherfucker falls and it topples over, it could kill people. But he can't, you know, that tree can't shoot rays out of it. The tree can't come and strangle people for not putting it up in their house, you know, or for not putting gifts under the tree. So that's why the Lord said, don't be afraid of it, because Jake gets simple, man. You know, for as much as there is none like unto thee, O Lord, thou art great, and thy name is great and mighty, and might, great in might. Okay, now I want to just get into this 1 Corinthians 8, because, you know, we speak about charity. Matter of fact, I believe that's let me hold that on deck. 1 Corinthians 13, because there was a scripture I was looking for, but I couldn't find it, and I couldn't really remember how it was worded. Just bear with me 1 second. No, that's not it either. All right. But in 1 Corinthians chapter 8, this is the Apostle Paul speaking to the Israelites that were in Corinth. And see, that's the thing. You have to picture, you know, these things in your mind. You have to know where this place is. You know, you have to know the history of what was going on, you know. So here it is. This is the land of Greece, and you have Corinth. You know, you have the capital Athens, and you have Corinth. Now the Apostle Paul was going throughout all these regions here, you know, testifying the word of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. And there was actually a church that was set up in Corinth. And that church that was set up in Corinth was set up of Israelites that were being called Gentiles or uncircumcised or heathens by the Jews. And he was teaching them. So you got to remember that these Israelites, they were coming out of the Hellenistic period, and they were actually doing things and worshiping idols and doing the rites and the rituals and the customs and dressing like those nations and speaking their language. So Paul is breaking down certain things to them to explain to them that they can't do that anymore, you know. So 1 Corinthians 8, it says, now as touching things offered unto idols, we know that we all have knowledge, because there is knowledge in everything. You know, even down to setting up a so-called Christmas tree. You know, it all has knowledge, but everything doesn't edify. Everything doesn't build the church. Everything doesn't exhort. Everything isn't expedient. Everything doesn't make the truth move forward. So all this knowledge that's out there, the only knowledge that's pertinent is the knowledge of the scriptures of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. That's really what we should be focused on. You know, so this is what Paul is trying to explain to them, you know, to these Israelite foreigners in Corinth. It says, knowledge puffeth up, but charity edifieth. So it says knowledge puffeth up because you have a lot of guys that got this knowledge, and because they had a great memory and a knack for research, you know, they got puffed up, and they started coming up with their own doctrines. And what happened? They ended up falling away. It says, but charity edifieth. Charity builds up, because charity, when you look into the word charity comes from the Greek word agape, which means love. See, agape there means love, brotherly love. But now, how is this brotherly love shown? Well, this is an example of brotherly love in this particular chapter here in 1 Corinthians 8. So how do you show charity? You know right from wrong. Your mind is strong enough, and you're solid in your foundation in the truth. So if somebody offers you a plate of food on so-called Christmas or so-called Thanksgiving or so-called Easter, as long as the food is lawful, you know you can eat the food. All you have to do is just pray over it in the name of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. But this brother that's just newly coming into the faith, he doesn't know that. So what he's going to do, he's going to actually eat the plate of food as if it was offered unto that idol. And then that'll fall back on you, because you know better. you know. So for him, for you not to offend that brother, what you would do is you would refrain from it. But if it's just you and other brothers that's like-minded, then and you want to eat, so eat. The fuck is a big deal? Oh, you guys gonna get put to death, man? It's just a goddamn plate of food, man. You know, as long as there's no pork or no shrimp or nothing unlawful on it, you can eat it because it's sanctified by prayer. It says, and if any man think that he knoweth anything, he knoweth nothing yet as he ought to know. But if any man love the Most High, the same is known of him. As concerning therefore the eating of those things that are offered in sacrifice unto idols, we know that an idol is nothing in the world, and there is none other power but one. So the Most High is that power. That idol ain't shit. So what they're doing by them sacrificing these meals or whatever to these idols, really the idol don't move. It doesn't walk. It doesn't talk. It doesn't listen. It can't blow its nose. The nose doesn't run. It's just that, an idol. But the Most High is one. It says, for though there be that are called gods, whether in heaven or in earth, as there be gods many and lords many. And that's another thing. People get trapped up and confused about the word God. The word God is a Hebrew word Allah, which means power. You know, you could have a heavenly God. You know, you could have the God, which is the Most High. You could have his son Yahushua, which is known as a God. You could have the angels, which are known as gods. You have men on the earth that are known as gods. You know, because the word God, it just simply means power or judge. You know, or somebody that's in a rulership position. So people get trapped up in that. So there are many gods, but there's only one power, and that's Yahweh. It says, but to us there is but one God, the Father, of whom are all things, and we in him, and one Lord Yahushua, by whom are all things, and we by him. So those sacrifices that they sacrifice to these idols is in vain, because the power that created them, these other people, is the power of the universe, right? It says, howbeit there is not in every man that knowledge. Why? Because you have Israelites out there that have totally forgotten about the Lord and are totally engulfed in these different sacrifices of these idols. It happened back then, and it's still happening today. Whether they actually cut the throat of a goat, or they cut the throat of a lamb or a chicken or whatever and sacrifice it, or whether they just go into church, sending their sons and their daughters to church, you know, sending their sons and their daughters to college or schools, you know, that's all part of their sacrifice to these idols. It says, for some with conscience of the idol unto this hour eat it as a thing offered unto an idol. But when we eat it, and we have knowledge of this, we eat it as it's just food. It's not something that we're like, oh wow, this is sacrificing to Saturnalia or Molech or Marduk or this deity or that deity. It's just food, because those idols don't even exist. It's just vain shit that was put up by these nations, and Jake just followed it. It says, and their conscience being weak is defiled. Why? Because they're thinking that when they partaking of it, they're partaking of it according to that idol, or giving reverence to that idol. Excuse me. It says, but meat commendeth us not to the Most High. So it's not meat that commends us to the Most High. It's our works, the things that we do. You know, it says, for neither if we eat are we the better, neither if we eat not are we the worse. So it doesn't matter if you in your mind say, look, I'm not eating that shit. I don't care what the apostles say. I don't care what brothers say. Fine, don't eat it. You don't have to. It's just like if you have a brother that wants to be a vegetarian, doesn't want to eat meat. I can't say, oh brother, you're going off, man. You got to eat meat. Nah, that's his decision. That's his choice. As long as it's done lawfully. You know, and if you have a brother that said, nah, man, I'm not going to be a vegetarian. I'm going to eat meat. I can't get mad at that brother and say, yo, brother, you should be a vegetarian. You know, no, that's his choice. You know, so if you eat this you know, if somebody said, here's this plate of food, you know, my mother cooked on Thanksgiving, you know, she or Christmas, and there's some turkey here with some gravy, you know, some mashed potatoes and some sweet potatoes or whatever, you know, you can eat it if you just say a prayer over it. But if you don't want to eat it, you don't have to eat it. See, this is the point of having understanding of the scriptures. You know, this is where the rubber meets the pavement, so to speak. You know, it says, but take heed lest by any means this liberty of yours become a stumbling block to them that are weak. Now, if you have a brother that's there with you, that's just newly coming into the faith, you know, whether it be a family member that just newly came into the faith, or somebody that knows a family or whatever, and he just happens to be there, then you know you're gonna be like, you know what? I know I have the liberty to eat this food. It's lawful food. All I have to do is say a prayer over it. But for the sake of this brother that's here, I'm not gonna eat it because he's gonna think that I'm eating it as a thing that's offered to Thanksgiving or Christmas or Easter or whatever. It says, for if any man see thee which has knowledge sit at meat in the idol's temple, shall not the conscience of him which is weak be emboldened to eat those things which are offered to idols? Right, because he'd be like, yo, wait a minute, this guy said he, you know, the hell with this place, you know, the so-called hell days, you know, which is so-called holidays, but he's eating. This is a Christmas dinner. Why are you eating that? You know, so you're gonna be like, well, if he eats and he speaks against, I'm gonna eat it. But they're not eating. You're eating it in a sense of you understand that you could say a prayer over it because it's just food, but they're eating it because they're looking at it as this is offered to an idol. This man can eat it. He has knowledge, so I'm gonna eat it. And that's where the sin comes in. That's where charity comes in. You know, you abstain from it for that brother's sake, and that's how you show love to that brother. It says, and through thy knowledge shall the weak brother perish for whom Yahweh died. See, so that brother's going to perish. Why? Because he's going to be emboldened to eat that as a thing offered unto idols, and not as you are, as a thing, as it just being food. See, there's a big whoop-de-doo, you know, about this stuff, and it's just very simple. You know, matter of fact, before I read on, let me go here to Romans 14:1. It says, him that is weak in the faith receive ye, but not the doubtful disputation. Why? Because we were all weak at one time. We had to all be built up, right? It says, for one believeth that he may eat all things, another who is weak eateth herbs. Right. So you might have, in the case of a man that's healthy, he can eat whatever, you know, as long as it's lawful. And a man that's sick, he might just be eating the herbs. And vice versa. You might have a brother that just might want to be a vegetarian, and a brother that said, nah, I can't be a vegetarian, I got to eat meat. This is what it says, let not him that eateth despise him that eateth not. So if you eat meat, or if you eat these things, you can't look at another brother and say, yo, man, you going off, man. Why you eating meat? Or he can't turn around and say, yo, man, you ain't eating meat, man. You just eating vegetables, man. What's wrong with you? You know? It says, and let not him which eateth not judge him that eateth, for the Most High has received them. So pretty much, this is where the understanding comes, you know. And if you have two brothers that are solid in the foundation and they understand, and one brother decides to be a vegetarian and another brother decides that he's gonna eat meat, they have that understanding in the spirit that, look, he could eat it and I eat it, and we're not going to offend each other because we already know what the deal is. It says, who art thou that judges another man's servant? To his own master he standeth or falleth. He shall be holding up, for the Most High is able to make him stand. And this is Romans 15:1. When we then that are strong, wait a minute. There was another point here that I had wanted to get. I'm not sure if it's at the beginning or if it's at the end of the chapter. And if I don't find it, it's all right, because the point is pretty much made. You know, it all boils down to understanding. You know, if you have the understanding, you know, of the scriptures, you could eat, you know, things, you know, so-called, you know, I mean, like I said, this is not a lesson to tell you to go eat the shit. You know, this is just letting you know what the scriptures say. And people get offended because there's stuff in the scriptures that brothers get mad about that we bring out, such as the rape doctrine, you know? Right, like the brother put holding firm unto the end, Habakkuk 3 and 6. It says the brother in Guyana did that. He knew his brother was weak in this area and he refrained himself around him. And that's a beautiful thing, you know, because he knew he could eat it, but he said, you know what, for my brother's sake, I'm not going to do it. And that's just, and it's just that simple. Now, when the brother gets strong enough, you know, and he understands, you know, then if you eat around, then y'all gonna, you know, then you'll have the same mind frame, so you won't offend the brother, you know. And this, like I said, this is all that it's about. It's something that's in the scriptures, and we bring it out, and we get criticized and chastised because we bring out controversial things out of the scriptures, because we have to give you the whole gospel. We can't just give you just the stuff that you like, you know, just the sweet stuff. We got to give the sweet with the bitter, you know, no matter how offended somebody gets, you know, that's on them. You know, if they get offended, that's on them. All right. So, matter of fact, let me go here real quick. Hebrews 5 and 12. For the time you ought to be teachers, you have need that one teach you again, which be the first principles of the oracles of the Most High, and are become such as have need of milk and not of strong meat. For everyone that useth milk is unskillful in the word of righteousness, for he is a babe. And that's a brother that's newly coming into the faith. You know, that's why you have to sort of kind of treat him with kid gloves if you see in the spirit that he's a sincere brother. You know, it says, but strong meat belongeth to them that are full age. Now, when you read in the in the red Bible that we have, which I'm going to get real quick, there's a precept in the middle of that. And then, you know, you can go to the words yourself and look them up. You go to those words in the Greek and look them up. But when you go here where it says strong meat belongs to them that are full age, the precept says, or perfect. Now, meaning perfect, how are they perfect? Perfect in understanding. You know, matter of fact, as the Apostle Paul said in the 1 Corinthians, the 2nd chapter, and I believe it's the 6th verse, it says, howbeit we speak wisdom among them that are perfect, yet not the wisdom of this world, nor of the princes of this world that come to naught. So we speak wisdom among them that are perfect, meaning what? Perfect in understanding, having their senses exercised. But strong meat belongeth to them that are full age, those that are full age, even those who by reason of use. Why? Because you have been laboring in this thing and you have the experiences. And the word experience, EX, is out, and perience or peritus means Salaka just escaped me. Out, to try out, you know, to try. Peritus is to try. So the word experience literally means to try out. So it says, even those who by reason of use have their senses exercised to discern both good and evil. So you know that when you're eating this thing, you're eating it just because it's a meal and not because it's offered unto some idol. You know, and like I said, you know, these are things that are in the scriptures. They're controversial. And when we bring them out, they talk shit about us. But so what? You know, at the end of the day, we got to do the work of the Lord, and we got to declare the whole gospel, not just pieces and bits that people like. All right. So going back to now we're going to go to 1 Corinthians 10 and 14. And I'm just going to go as long as the Spirit allows. You know, I'm happy that I'm able to go live again on this channel, because my channel, you know, I can't go live. I don't know, for 3 months or 6 months, however long they said. So every once in a while, you know, a spirit jump on you to go live. You know, I got another avenue now. 1 Corinthians 10:14. Wherefore, my dearly beloved, flee from idolatry. So now Paul is speaking once again to the Corinthians. It said, flee from idolatry. Why? Why is he speaking to them about idolatry? Because these people that Paul is speaking to, which are being called Gentiles and heathens and strangers, are Israelites that got caught up in the Hellenistic period, that were worshiping the idols of the Greeks and sacrificing to the idols of the Greeks back then. So Paul is explaining to them that, look, this is not the way. You got to change that, and you got to come back in the right way. And that's why he preached to them about Yahushai, and he preached to them about the sanctification and the atonement, you know, because they were trying to get the atonement through these different sacrifices. But Yahushai already became the ultimate sacrifice. He was explaining that to the Israelite foreigners, and he was explaining that to the Jews that knew that they were Israelites. Matter of fact, I got something real quick. Just bear with me 1 second here. All right, this is in the book of First Maccabees, chapter. I had the chapter 2, verse. I'll start at 15. This is when after Antiochus Epiphanes, and he came into the city, desecrated the temple, you know, had pigs, swine's flesh sacrificed on the altar, you know, and then he had officers and wicked Israelites that were going around to the different Israelite peoples and making them to sacrifice swine on the flesh, you know. And this is when Mattathias and the 5 brothers known as the Maccabees came into being, which the word Maccabees really was applied to Judas. He was called Judas Maccabees. The word Maccabees goes back to the Hebrew word Makobath, which means hammer. He was putting hell on them nations. So this is First Maccabees 2:15. It says, in the meanwhile, the king's officers, meaning the officers of King Antiochus, such as compelled the people to revolt. Now the word revolt is to fight against, you know. So they fought against what? The law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High. So he's causing some of the Israelites to revolt. It says came into the city of Modin. Now Modin was a city where Mattathias and his sons were from, to make them sacrifice. See, because it was an order. You got to remember that when you go to the Hellenistic period, that was an actual order for them to actually sacrifice these idols and sacrifice swine's flesh. It was an actual law that was written into effect. And pretty much when you go back in the history and you read about this stuff, and you read about the laws of Antiochus Epiphanes, or the laws of Nebuchadnezzar, or the Romans, or any nation that said, look, you got to do this, you got to sacrifice to this idol, you got that's all a part of the history, so that we can have examples today of these things, because they're coming again. You know, when they make this chip mandatory, it's going to be in law. You know, look, you have to take this chip, just like you got to get a driver's license, or you can't drive. It's going to be a law where you're going to have to take the microchip, or else, you know. And this law that was put in here of them not circumcising their children, or sacrificing swine's flesh, was an actual law that was decreed by Antiochus Epiphanes. This First Maccabees 1:41. Moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom. See, he wrote. This is a prescription, prescribe. The word scribe, it goes back to the word write. So this is a something that was written by King Antiochus to his whole kingdom, meaning everywhere where he was ruling, that all people should be one, and everyone should leave his laws. So all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king. Yea, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion, and sacrificed unto idols, and profaned the Sabbath. So this was an actual law that was in the books of the Greeks. And they were compelled to do this, because if they didn't, the penalty was what? Death. And as you read down further in this chapter, it shows you, Salakia, how certain women and their children were put to death because they sacrificed their children. I mean, they circumcised their children, Salakia. All right. So going back to First Maccabees 2, it says, and when many First Maccabees 2:16, and when many of Israel came unto them, Mattathias also and his sons came together. Then answered the king's officers and said to Mattathias on this wise, thou art a ruler and an honorable and great man in this city. and strengthened with sons and brethren. Now therefore come thou first and fulfill the king's commandment, like as all the heathen have done. Yea, and the men of Judah also, and such as remain at Jerusalem. So shalt thou and thy house be in the number of the king's friends, and thou and thy children shall be honored with silver and gold and many rewards. So this is this officer coming, and he's really pretty much trying to talk to him now, but this was done on a thing of it was forced. It's just like this microchip. When they give the decree or the order or the law, you're gonna have to take it, you know, and that's why we're gonna have to rebel against this devil, you know, because the same way that Mattathias and Judas Maccabees and them and certain other Israelites rebelled against the Greek Empire, you know, and rebelled against certain parts of the Roman Empire. They wouldn't do certain things that the Romans wanted them to do, or they wouldn't do certain things that Nebuchadnezzar wanted them to do, like bowing down to his God and his idols and all that. It says, then Mattathias answered and spake with a loud voice, though all the nations that are under the king's dominion obey him and fall away everyone from the religion of their fathers and give consent to his commandments, yet will I and my sons and my brethren walk in the covenant of our fathers. The Most High forbid that we should forsake the law and the ordinances. We will not hearken to the king's words to go from our religion, either on the right hand or the left. Now, when he had left speaking these words, there came one of the Jews in the sight of all to sacrifice on the altar which was at Modin, according to the king's commandment. So you had this simple-minded, wicked-ass Israelite that went on the altar to sacrifice this swine. So these people that the Apostle Paul was speaking to in Corinth were descendants of the ones that were compelled to do these things, that were doing those wicked acts. So he's coming to them and bringing them back because the Most High made him a prophet to the Gentiles or to the Israelite foreigners. So reading on, which thing when Mattathias saw, he was inflamed with zeal, that he couldn't contain himself, you know. He said, this mother, and his reins trembled, you know. So he was so pissed off and so zealous that he actually started trembling. Neither could he forbear to show his anger according to judgment. But he inside he was trembling and shaking, you know, but he was just being cool because he was a ruler. So he had to contain himself. Wherefore he ran and slew him upon the altar. So he took that nigger and killed his ass for sacrificing swine's flesh on the Lord's altar. Also, the king's commissioner who compelled men to sacrifice, he killed at that time, and the altar he pulled down. So he killed that wicked nigger that was sacrificing. I don't know how much of that you brothers caught. It's 12:03. Just let me know what was the last thing you brothers heard, and I could kind of let me know what the last thing you brothers heard, and I'll go back and repeat a little bit of what it was. Just like I said, let me know what was the last thing you brothers remember hearing, and then I can go back and touch on that again. I'll just wait for you brothers' response before I continue on. Okay, beautiful. Okay, so he killed these wicked men, right? So he killed these wicked men, and these wicked men of Israel that he killed are the same ones that the Apostle Paul was addressing, because during that time they weren't able to call themselves Jews. Some of the Israelites consented to the Greeks, and some of them didn't. You know, some of them fell away. Why? Because it was a Hellenistic period. They were being Hellenized. You know, they were compelled to become Greeks, and that's why you have, when you read the New Testament, it speaks about the Gentiles and the Greeks and all that. Those are the Israelites that fell away, that are being brought back to the fold now. You see, so the Lord was breaking down that middle wall of partition and bringing them back, because there was a total avoidance, a total abhorring and avoidance of those Israelite foreigners. Okay. So 1 Corinthians 10 and 14, wherefore, my dearly beloved, flee from idolatry. And that's why he told him these things, because he understood where they were coming from. I speak as to wise men, judge ye what I say. Salaki, brothers. All right. So he said he's speaking to wise men. In other words, if you have been endowed with the spirit to understand, judge what I'm saying to you. Because you had Israelites out there that were gone. They wasn't trying to hear nothing the Apostle Paul or anybody else is saying. Like Timothy's father. Timothy's father, he was content being a Greek. He wasn't trying to come back to Israel, because it wasn't meant for him. It was meant for Timothy. So Timothy, his family line was one of the family lines that was caught up into that Hellenization period, whose families went into the Greek customs and worshiping the Greeks. Okay. It says, I speak this to wise men, judge ye what I say. The cup of blessing, which we bless, is it not the communion of the blood of Yahushai? So now he's breaking down the sacrifice. When we do this is a thing that we do in remembrance to the Lord. The cup of the communion, meaning what? The cup of Yahushai's blood. When we keep the Passover, the unleavened bread and the wine that we drink represents Yahushai's blood and his body. Okay? But we can't mix that with the customs of this world. And that's what the Apostle Paul is breaking down to these Israelites in Corinth that were being called Gentiles. The bread which we break, is it not the communion of the body of Yahushai? For we being many are one bread and one body, for we are all partakers of that one bread. So that's why we're supposed to all serve the Lord with one consent. We ain't supposed to have those divisions. And that's what the Apostle Paul was also addressing, because these Israelites were being divided amongst each other. And part of the reason why they were being divided amongst each other was because you had the Jews that were coming in there and telling them they had to be saved by the laws. And then they were fighting against each other because some of them might have worshipped different gods than the other. You know, so there was a lot of infighting going on back then. It says, behold, Israel after the flesh, are not they which eat of the sacrifice partakers of the altar? So if you eat of that sacrifice and your mind is set on eating that sacrifice because it was offered unto this idol, then you're no different than these other nations, you know, because you're in union with the sacrificing, you know, of those wicked things to idols. The same thing with Israel. When Israel was sacrificing on the altar to the Lord, they became one, you know, because they were doing it as to Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. So these Israelite foreigners were doing it unto the idol. So they became joined unto the idol. And they were known as what? They were known as harlots because that wickedness, or the worshiping of these idols, was fornication or adultery, spiritual adultery against the Most High. Wisdom of Solomon 14:13. Let me start at 12. For the devising of idols was the beginning of spiritual fornication, and the invention of them the corruption of life. And this is what happened. They became corrupted through what? Through worshiping those idols. That's why it says in the book of 1 Corinthians 12:1, bear with me 1 second. Now concerning spiritual gifts, brethren, I would not have you ignorant. You know that you were Gentiles carried away unto these dumb idols, even as you were led. So these idols is what caused you to become Gentiles, because you were led by those dumb idols. And the beginning, or the devising of the idols, was the beginning of spiritual fornication, and the invention of them, the corruption of life. That's what made you corrupt. That's what corrupted you. And when that corrupted you, you were pretty much a harlot. That's what the Lord calls Israel, a harlot, right? And that's what this means here in the book of 1 Corinthians 6. And I'll start at 15. It says, know ye not that your bodies are the members of Yahushai? Shall I then take the members of Yahushai and make them the members of an harlot? The Most High forbid. And then, you have guys in the IUIC talking about, see, you're not supposed to deal with prostitutes. This is not dealing with prostitutes, man. This is dealing with a spiritual fornication, which is the worshiping of idols. Israel became harlots, right? Did not the Lord call Israel a harlot? Matter of fact, let me put that term harlot and see what pops up. Oh man, a whole lot. Let me see if I can find one. Jeremiah 2:20. For of old time I have broken thy yoke and burst thy bands, and thou saidest, I will not transgress. When upon every high hill and under every green tree thou wanderest playing the harlot. Meaning what? They were worshiping those idols. That's what it was talking about. It ain't talking about no actual prostitute. So it says, so know ye not that your bodies are the members of Yahushai? Shall I then take the members of Yahushai and make them the members of an harlot? The Most High forbid. No, because why should you worship them idols anymore? That's what made you go off in the first place. What? Know ye not that he which is joined to an harlot is one body? Why? Because when you join to those sacrifices of these nations and the idols, you become joined with that. It says, but two, saith he, shall be one flesh. So you become one flesh because you become joined unto that idol. That's why you fell away from grace, because the Lord said, man, you're no longer my wife, man. You're defiled now. Get the hell away from me. But he that is joined to the Lord is one spirit. So you can't say, I'm worshiping the Lord, but on my spare time, I'm still doing some of the sacrifice in the temple of Dagon or whatever. Nah. You got to wholly separate yourself from that. It says, flee fornication. That's pretty much it right there. That's pretty much it. So now let's go back to 1 Corinthians 10 and 18. Behold, Israel after the flesh are not they which eat of the sacrifice, partakers of the altar. What say I then? That the idol is anything, or that which is offered in sacrifice to the idol is anything? But I say that the things which the Gentiles sacrifice, they sacrifice to devils. Now, this is dealing with the actual nations, and it's also dealing with the Israelite foreigners, because these Israelite foreigners that Paul is speaking to, they were getting away from those sacrifices. But you still had Israelites out there that were still sacrificing, and so they were sacrificing it to devils. And then when you go back to Deuteronomy, the 32nd chapter, it speaks about that. Matter of fact, let me just get that right quick. Deuteronomy 32 and 16. They provoked him to jealousy with strange gods. See, this is dealing with Israel, Jeshurun, which is another name for Israel. With abominations provoked they him to anger. They sacrificed unto devils. So these Israelites sacrificed unto devils, and what happened? Their foolish hearts became darkened, and they became uncircumcised. And not to the Most High, right? Not to the Most High, to gods whom they knew not, to new gods that came newly up, whom your fathers feared not. And Israel is a very impressionable nation. They'll see this glitter and glamour, and like, oh wow, that's so beautiful. It's just and then you got the what they call that when they do the marching, carrying the saints and all that shit, liturgy. They got that, and they get amazed by that. And they look at all the sparkling lights and the glimmer, and oh my goodness, and they believe that this is of the Most High, that Yahushua was actually born on this day, So that's why Paul had to get on them. 1 Corinthians 10 and 20. It says, The brother GMS Shemai Yum Yun, Ephesians 4 and 12, for the perfecting of the saints, for the work of the ministry, for the edifying of the body of Yahushua. And that's what it is. You're supposed to edify the body of Yahushua, which the word edify means you got another term called edifice, which means to build, and that's how you build, brother. You got to break down everything in the scriptures. The Apostle Paul said it best. He said, oh, how I am pained until Yahushua be formed in you, because after a while, when you learn his knowledge, then the Lord himself builds you up. You learn from men and the Lord builds you up, but at first you got to be like those babies sucking the mother's tit and drinking that milk, so you can grow. And after you grow, you can't just, once you come out of the tit stage, so to speak, after you come out of that tit stage, you can't just go and eat a whole steak. You got to eat foods that are mashed up for you, and things that, that are grounded up. And after a while, you can start eating the solids, but you got to get out of that tit stage first. 1 Corinthians 10 and 20. But I say that the things, and some guys are still on that tit stage, man. 1 Corinthians 10 and 20. But I say that the things which the Gentiles sacrifice, they sacrifice to devils and not to the Most High. And I would not that you should have fellowship with devils. So, because if you do, then you're going to become one body with their harlot. You're going to become one body with those idols. And what happens? You're going to become uncircumcised. It says, that's right. Matter of fact, the brother GMS Shemai Yamyun, he put 2 Corinthians 4. Matter of fact, he said, and when your children see that, they will throw your kids from the lights and glamour. Right, because that's what Jake follows. That lights, them beautiful lights and glamour, and the whole way that it's set up, and the instructions and how you got to walk and how you got to carry and put this light over here. They get into all that shit. 2 Corinthians 4 and 4, in whom the God of this world hath blinded the minds of them which believe not, at least the light of the glorious gospel of Yahushua, who is the image of the Most High, should shine unto them. Or no, I mean, when I said some of you are still on the breast, still in that tit stage, I'm not talking about young brothers just coming in that's still learning. I'm talking about guys that have been in this thing for a while, that should be on the stage of eating solids, and meat, Now, I'm not talking about the brothers just coming in, that's not, I'm not making fun of you brothers. I'm just, saying that as far as guys that have been in this thing for years and are still on that tit stage, just, to clarify that. All right, so 1 Corinthians 10 and 20, but I say that the things which the Gentiles sacrifice, they sacrifice to devils and not to the Most High. And I would not that you should have fellowship with devils. And that's what the Apostle Paul was breaking down to these brothers in Corinth, these Israelite foreigners in Corinth. He was breaking it down to them because they didn't fully understand everything, So he had to take his time and break it down to them, in the milk stage. All right. You have to get away from worshiping them idols. So he says, you cannot drink the cup of the Lord and the cup of devils. You can't be a part-time worshiping the Most High and then part-time worshiping Satan. Here it is. You go on the highways and byways on Saturdays or Sundays or whatever day you go out, and then the rest of the week you're worshiping these idols. No, you can't do that, man. You cannot be partakers of the Lord's table and the table of devils. Do we provoke the Lord to jealousy? Are we stronger than he? What happened when we provoke the Lord to jealousy? He kicked us in the ass, man. Matter of fact, this is 1 Corinthians chapter 10. It says, moreover, brethren, I would not that you should be ignorant, how that all our fathers were under the cloud and all passed through the sea. This is dealing with when we were brought out of Egypt, and we all went through the Gulf of Suez, which is the Gulf that is on the western side of the Red Sea. And we're all baptized unto Moses in the cloud and in the sea, and did all eat the same spiritual meat, and did all drink the same spiritual rock. For they drank of that spiritual rock that followed them, and that rock was Yahushua. So the Messiah, Yahushua, was back then following us, you know. So he was back there from the beginning of the creation, even before the foundations of the earth was he there. It says, but with many of them, the Most High was not well pleased, for they were overthrown in the wilderness. Why? Because they provoked the Most High to anger. So that whole generation that came out, they died in the wilderness. The only two that made it out of there was Joshua and Caleb. They were the only two that of the original people that were brought out of Israel that made it to the promised land. They said, but with many of them, the Most High was not well pleased, for they were overthrown in the wilderness. Now, these things were our examples to the intent we should not lust after evil things. And this, again, the Apostle Paul breaking it down to the Israelites in Corinth. See, these books, man, are heavy books. These are heavy books, heavy letters, that heavy epistles that Paul is writing to them, explaining certain things to them, to these Israelites. It says, as they also lusted, neither be ye idolaters. Once again, neither be ye idolaters, as were some of them, as it is written, the people sat down to eat and drink and rose up to play. Neither let us commit fornication, as some of them committed, meaning what? Worshiping these idols, and fell in one day 23,000. So the Lord was pissed off. So the Lord said, look, don't, you can't, do we provoke the Lord to jealousy? Are we stronger than he? Hell no. Neither let us tempt Yahushua, as some of them also tempted and were destroyed of serpents, because the serpents were set out there to bite them. Because they were being very nasty. Jake was being too much. Hey, and you see it today, man. Jake is too much. If you let Jake, they'll drive you crazy, man. If you let them. It says, neither murmur ye, as some of them also murmured and were destroyed of the destroyer, Yahushua. Now all these things happened unto them in samples, and they are written for our admonition, upon whom the ends of the world are come. So they were written for our admonition, for our correction. And that's why Paul is breaking it down to them. You can't be a partaker of the Lord's table and the table of devils, or you can't drink of the Lord's cup and the cup of devils. Do we provoke the Lord to jealousy? What happened when we provoked the Lord to jealousy? He kicked us in the ass. Are we stronger than he? Hell no. All things are lawful for me, but all things are not expedient. All things are lawful for me, but all things edify not. Because Paul, the Apostle Paul, had much knowledge, but the certain things that he knew wasn't expedient or edification for building up the brothers that were coming in. Some of the stuff that he knew was for the more advanced, so he kept certain things back from them. And he told them now in 1 Corinthians, the 3rd chapter, I can't speak unto you as unto spiritual, but as unto carnal, for ye are still babes. It says, let no man seek his own, but every man another's wealth. In other words, to help brothers out, don't always, don't always be in that me, I spirit, Sometimes you got to sacrifice for brothers, So now here we go. It says, whatsoever is sold in the shambles, that eat, asking no questions for conscience sake. Now, when you look up that word shambles, makelion or makelon, it says a place where meat and other articles of food are sold, meat market. So this is the meat market. So the shambles is the meat market. So when you go to the meat market, like you could go to, I don't know where you brothers, wherever you at, you got the AMP and you got the ShopRites and you got the Big Y's and you got the Piggly Wigglies and you got the Kroger's and you got these different Stop and Shop, different shopping places you go to, and even the butcher shops. Some brothers say, well, I don't get my meat from none of that, but I go to the butcher shop. Well, how do you know how they prepared that lamb or that chicken or whatever it is you eating there? You don't know if that was sacrificed to an idol, and then when they brought it there, they just chopped it up, and gave it to you. You don't know. So when you go and you buy it, you don't hey, it was just sacrificed to it. That's being over righteous. Don't worry about that. Take it, cook it, bless it, eat it. That's it. As long as it's lawful. So whatsoever is sold in the shambles, that eat, asking no questions for conscience sake. For the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. So everything on the earth is the Lord's. And even though if they sacrifice it to idols, the idol is nothing. There's no idol. So you just bless it in the name of Yahweh Bashem El Shai and eat it. If any of them that believe not bid you to a feast, and you be disposed to go, whatsoever said before you eat, asking no questions for conscience sake. As long as it's lawful meat, you can eat it. Because you know in your mind you're going to pray to Yahweh Bashem El Shai over it and then eat it. They may be eating it as a thing offered to an idol for Christmas or Thanksgiving or whatever, but you're eating it as just a meal. It says, but if any man say unto you, this is offered in sacrifice unto idols, eat not for his sake that showed it, and for the conscience sake, for the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. So don't eat it for his sake, not for you, because you know that you could eat that and you cool because you're going to say a prayer over it. This person is eating it as a thing that's sacrificed to an idol. It says, conscience, I say, not thine own, but of the other. For why is my liberty judged of another man's conscience? For if I by grace be a partaker, why am I evil spoken of for that for which I give thanks? Why? Because I'm giving thanks for this to eat it, because I know that this is just a meal. These other people are eating it because they're saying, well, this is sacrifice unto the God of whatever, God of this. I'm eating it because I know that this is just food. It's lawful food. I can eat it, you know? So why am I being judged? You say, wait, this guy's eating to idol. No, I'm not eating to no fucking idol. I'm eating because it's food and it's lawful food. Whether therefore you eat or drink. Matter of fact, before I read on, let me get this other precept I got. This is the book of 1 Timothy 4. I'll start at 3. Forbidding to marry and commanding to abstain from meats. You know, so if there's certain meats you could eat, they're lawful. You could eat it, which the Most High hath created to be received with thanksgiving of them which believe and know the truth. See, but you have to believe and know the truth to be able to discern, okay, look, I could eat this and I can eat that. I can't eat that. For every creature of the Most High is good, and nothing to be refused if it be received with thanksgiving, for it is sanctified by the word of the Most High and prayer. So when you pray over it, it's being sanctified, it's being made holy. You know, it's not being sacrificed unto no idols or no devils. Back in 1 Corinthians 10:31, whether therefore you eat or drink or whatsoever you do, do all to the glory of the Most High. Give none offense, neither to the Jews, nor to the Gentiles, nor to the church of the Most High. Even as I please all men in all things, not seeking mine own profit, but the profit of many, that they may be saved. All right. So, you know, pretty much I'm there, unless the Spirit gives me anything else to bring out. But the name of the lesson is the things which the Gentile sacrifice and various topics. Today is so-called Christmas, December 25th, 2017. You know, and I just, you know, the Spirit was on me to go over this. So, you know, I listened and I you know, through the Spirit put this lesson together. You know, and a bunch of scriptures started coming to mind. So I just pulled up tabs and just went in the Spirit. You know, so that's pretty much it. You know, like if you as long as the food is lawful, you could eat. You know, but like I said, if you dead set in your mind not to eat it, then by all means don't eat it. There's nothing wrong with that. But if a brother eats it, don't look at him, you know, like, yo, brother, why you eating that? You know, because you understand. As long as you both understand, you know, that look, this is just food. It's not, even though they may say they sacrifice to this or that, it's just food at the end of the day. You know, and then when you go to the place, they're not saying, well, this is sacrifice unto Santa Claus or unto Saturnalia and then Molech and Marduk. They're just cooking, because Jake don't need much of an excuse to have a party. You know, Jake just likes to party. You know, so as long as the food is lawful, just say a prayer over it and eat it, and that's it. It's just food. All right. But with that, you know, I hope you brothers have been edified. To the next time I say shalom.